watching the Forefront Church video podcast. And wherever you're at viewing online, we just want to say thank you and welcome. And one of the ways that we can help connect with you is we want to hear from you and where you're at and how we can help. And so head over to forefrontchurch.info after the message and click the Connect tab. It's a great way for us to help you along your spiritual journey as you connect with God and learn about Jesus. And so sit back, relax. We hope that you're challenged and encouraged from today's message. Confession time. How many of you online enjoy occasionally or way too often those little cute animal videos that pop up all the time? Yeah, you know who you are. Oh yeah, some of you, some other people are helping you push up your hand. You've shared, sometimes overshared those videos. You might be the same people that got into what was Giraffe Gate, that we were watching and waiting and hoping for that giraffe baby to then be born. My feed, one day I woke up and I was like, everybody's talking about this giraffe. What's going on? And that slowly now, I kind of like poked fun at it and everything else, but I had no clue that that would then breed what would then be an addiction to animal cams. I'm here. My name is Jason, and I have an addiction to animal cams. Ever since then, I don't know what it is, and I'm following all sorts of different ones. I check them every day. It's a little weird, I know. I'm all right with it. And one of them that I check on the regular is this camera in Seattle that it's an Eagle Cam. Now, this is not a view of said Eagle Cam, but it has a close-up on the nest, and then it has another camera that has a wide-angle view. And I was showing it to my daughters, and immediately my oldest daughter informed me. I was like, look at all the baby birds. She said, Daddy, those aren't baby birds. Those are eaglets. And so I was like, whoa, my bad, 9-year-old with a little bit of sass. And so we're watching this take place, and I'm waiting and waiting for them to eventually take flight. And I've learned and started studying about this because I'm weird and want to know more about what it means when a baby eagle or eaglet is about to get to a place where it needs to get out of the nest. And parents, you can take note of this. You see, the mama eagle will then start to, as they're getting closer to the time that they need to learn how to fly, will then remove all of the comfortable cushioning in the nest. This would be, i.e., video games, buying them all of their food, doing their laundry, make them pay rent. All of these things to get eventually to them to go, hey, you can be out on your own. Starts pulling away all the stuffing and things, and then eventually, after the cushion gets away, then they start bringing less and less food to the nest. Because then they start getting hungry, and the mom and dad go, yeah, you should learn to fly. You should learn to fly like a bird, far, far away, and move in that direction. But what I didn't realize as I was reading up on this is one of the parrots, and usually the male will be in the nest as they get in. The baby eagles, they don't start out all pretty America. They start out ugly. They're ugly. But as they get to the edge of the nest, usually the mama bird will fly off and be ready, and then the baby birds are feeling the itch, but they're not sure. And so the dad bird will quite literally take a wing or a foot, and it's going to be okay. Heard a gasp up from, I don't know what to do. Will push them out of the nest. To which the baby bird or eaglet will usually do this number, much like some of you on the dance floor, and fly through the air, and then it'll keep going down and down and down and down and dies. No, just kidding. Sorry up front. And so, no, right before it hits, the mama bird will swoop in. Not at the very beginning and give it a helmet and elbow pads and training wheels and a leash. Letting it go through terror, letting it go through learning, let it be terrified within an inch of its life, and then the mama bird will swoop underneath, get the baby bird and bring it back, and then they'll start the process over again. It's not very comfortable for the eaglet. As soon as it's moving it out of the nest, then it's saying, oh, by the way, you have to get out, you got to move, you got to be. And for many of us in our walk of faith, in our journey towards God, whether you're brand new to this or you've been out this a while, all of us like to be comfortable and none of us like to be living in terror. And so the normal prayer as we begin to engage God and faith in the divine is, God, take this pain away. God, take this situation from me. God, give me a yellow brick road with rainbows and butterflies and a bluebird on my shoulder. But God, take this and move it out. And God goes, I'm not actually going to change your circumstances. I'm going to be much like the parent eagle, and I'm going to knock you out of the nest. I'm going to allow you to go through this because we need the opportunity, even in the midst of pain and the rub, we need to learn what it means to fly. But I love the very imagery of God, and we talked about this a few weeks back, that as we trust in Him, that we soar on wings like eagles, that we will walk and not grow weary, we will run and not grow faint, that God intervenes on our behalf and protects us from certain death, even as we're learning. But for many of us, we just want to be comfortable. But what if God is not concerned with your comfort? Yeah. What if God doesn't want you to be comfortable? I know that sounds crazy. We've been in this series, Altars, and I want to kind of backtrack if you haven't been with us or you've missed a couple weeks about what God has been doing in this as we've built this up, taking pause moments in our life as we walk through moments and give God the honor where honor is due. God, thank you. Let me pause and invite your presence in because you are good. In the first week, we looked at it and just what does it mean to go through something new? And we said that new beginnings require new postures, that the way that we act, live, move, and breathe is going to be markedly different than we did before. And the chapter we were in before, we're going to have to leave some things behind and move forward as we listen, sacrifice, and honor God. And we got into week 2 and realized that we need to learn how to celebrate. But the only way we know how to celebrate is know the fact that we've been through something. And when we go through something, it's really good to know what happened back then so we can know what God does right now. And so we ended in that week of altar of celebration saying, all right, that the God who did it before can do it again. And if you're here this morning and you're not sure about God and His movement in your life and you question the divine in the nature, work, and person of Jesus in church and organized quote-unquote religion, I get it. I've been there. And I can tell you as someone who has walked through that to the other side, that the God who did it before in your past, in your present, and into your future can show up and give you hope and redeem you because He did it back then and He can do it now. And we got to week 3 looking at what does it mean to truly worship, to just have these awe moments, like when you walk in for your first time into Disneyland, you're just, oh, it's the castle. It's all the rides. It's the happiest place on earth until you see all the children crying and weeping and parents struggling because they just took out a mortgage on their house to pay for it. We want these awe moments with God. We looked at what does it mean to be in worship, in this altar of worship with God, and we ended up being in a place where we say, all right, as we get these awe moments, that the awe of God and the beauty of God would lead us to a place where we would make a spiritual U-turn. That the place that we're at now, that we go, there's some things that need to be corrected. We need to, recalculating, is the GPS would say we need to move, we missed the exit, we missed the turn, because we have a veer off. Our nature in the human condition is to go, God's going that way, I like it a little bit this way. God, I'll still go that direction, but a little off. But we know that even the littlest bit off will then move like this, and we will be so far away the longer that we go that we will be no longer near the destination that God has for us. In week 4, Dan Pollard did a phenomenal job talking about prayer, knowing that we need to ask God for the necessities and not for an overwhelming amount, and how do we stop at the altar of prayer? And where we ended up is that daily life is about Him and not me. That daily prayer and connection with God, as we stop and pause, it's about Him and not about my comforts. And today we're going to be in this passage where we're looking at this guy named Jacob. And if you have a Bible, it's over in Genesis 28. And that's the Old Testament of the Bible. And good for you if you're not quite sure how to navigate your Bible. It's the first book. So you are in luck today. You can open it up and find Genesis, and you can look like a pro even if you have no idea. And if you don't have a Bible, we give them away for free at the Get Connected table in the lobby. It's yours to keep. Just stop by there and pick one up, or you can go to forefrontchurch.info right now on your mobile device. Click Need a Bible, and you could download a Bible app or our Forefront Church app that has notes and everything together. All of those resources, whether it's there or digital, are free because we want you to engage your faith. Because we're learning each week what it means to open up this divine book, this account that God's given us, and what does it mean for our lives to be supernaturally changed by the Almighty. And that's what happens with this guy named Jacob. See, Jacob gets this dream. How many of you guys have ever had a dream that you can remember? Yeah, and you ever had a dream where you wake up and you're mad at the person you're laying next to? Yeah, my wife has those all the time. She wakes up and I'm like, hey, good morning, and she's like, you are so mean. I'm like, what'd I do? In my dream, and she'll go on and on, be mad like half the day. I'm like, I didn't even do it. Jacob has a dream. Jacob has this dream that God has given him, and we're going to walk through 12 verses about what it means to encounter a dream and what is our response in the middle of that when God gives you something. What do you and I do? Because the reality is we've all been given a dream by God. You might not even understand the dream yet, but you've been given a dream by God. And what do you and I do? Over in Genesis 28, starting in verse 10. If you don't have a Bible, it'll be here on the screens. It says, Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head to lay down to sleep. That will give you bad dreams. I'm going to lay on a stone. That seems like a good idea. No. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven. And the angel of God were ascending and descending on it, and there above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your land on which you're lying, your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and I will spread you out to the east, and to the west, to the north, and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. This is a huge promise and dream that God has given him. I am with you. I will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I've done all that I promise. That dream is wicked awesome. Verse 16. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. Just going to pause there. How many times, if you've been engaging faith for any given time, have you all of a sudden looked up from an instance, a situation, in a circumstance, and you go, whoa, that shouldn't have happened that way. And you go, wow, maybe God was involved. See, Jacob didn't even know. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? I love that he used the word awesome. This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Early the next morning, Jacob took a stone, and he placed it, the stone from under his head, and he set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. He stopped and had an altar moment. God, you gave me a dream. Now, what do we do with a dream? Took a pillar and poured oil. He called the place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. And there Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me in this journey, and I'm taking journey I'm taking will give me the food to eat and the clothes to wear so I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God. And this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house. And all that you have given me, I will give you a tenth. Already there, we see the promise set up. God has given me a great abundance. God, you've given me 10. I'm going to keep 9. I'm going to give you 1. Jacob has this dream, this huge dream, and it immediately leads him to a decision. Now, you and I have lots of decisions in life, and they start off, even this morning when you woke up, you had a decision. Am I going to shower or not shower? Am I going to, and it shouldn't be a decision, am I going to brush my teeth or not brush my teeth? That shouldn't be a choice. You should just know. Actually, one of our dental hygienist guys that are over here playing guitar, he'll let you know. That's bad. You need to floss, you need to brush your teeth. You decide whether or not you're going to get dressed. For all of that, we all say thank you. You walk through and you have decisions about what you're going to do, and they mount up and rise. And I know if you are in a relationship, if you're dating, if you're married, this meme right here will say it for you. I don't care where we eat as long as it is not one of the 10 places that you just said. This happens in our life. I can tell by the laughter, it has happened for you. If you're laughing too loud, you're the problem. I ask my wife all the time, where do you want to eat? I don't care. That's a lie, straight from the pits of hell. Why? Because as soon as I ask her that question, she says, I don't care. And then I say, all right, let's do Chinese. Ooh, I don't want to do Chinese. Like you say you didn't care. I don't care. Just don't want Chinese. Makes me feel a little, all right, maybe we should do pizza. That'd be cool. Let's go for pizza. Yeah, we had pizza a few nights ago. You just said you didn't care. I don't care. Sound a little defensive. Why? Because you said you didn't care, but you care. All right, cool, let's go. You want a sandwich? I don't want a sandwich. We could do that at home. We could make that at home. Like you said you didn't care. Decisions. And I think the problem that we have in just even looking at meals, so we have too many choices about what we're going to do, whether it's in the house or out of the house, and we don't know what to do, and we need to be able to narrow it down. We need to make a decision. And when it comes to God and His grace and His beauty and His love, we go, man, there's a lot of decisions. Where should I go to church? Oh, I like that church. I don't like that church. I like this. I don't like that. Even though worship isn't even about that. Like if you even thought to yourself this morning, I like this song, I don't like that song, God's going, that has nothing to do with what worship's about. Even with me, which I hope you like, you go, man, I didn't really like that message today. Well, this is for God, not for you, but hopefully you enjoy it. But hopefully it challenges you. But that's not even what worship is about. You see, we have decisions. And decisions have to lead us to a new place. Or as we would say in this altar of decision, that God has given you and I a dream, and altar dreams need to bring you and I to real life decisions. That dreams correlate to action. That it would take us from the place that we are in the dream that God has given us to a place of action where we actually make real life choices and movement, because if it stays at a dream, the dream will die. And I'll ask you, those of you guys who are believers in the room, for many of you, I want to ask you, when did the dream die? When did the dream die? And you might be like, what do you mean? Dan, our adult ministries pastor, and I have talked about it before, where people meet God and they go, it's like Ric Flair, woo! Like they get pumped. And they're like, I'm inviting friends, my life is changing, I'm doing whatever. Then what happened? And then they're like, I'm serving, I'm going to give. All these things that, by the way, if you're a believer, God commands you to do. It's not like, oh, I might serve, I might not serve. God goes, if you're going to follow me, part of being a part of a local body is that you would serve, you'd give, you'd be a part, you'd be engaged in this. That's part of faith. The early believers did it, people do it, now we do it. Whether, well, if it's convenience, it's not about convenience, it's about dreams to decisions. And we move through this, but then what happens? Eventually hit a plateau. Man, it's really tough to get to church sometimes and all this stuff. And, well, the message last week didn't do it for me. It wasn't about, and then they played my song I liked, but then they played 2 songs I didn't like. And then all of these things happen, and it's called this personal plateau in faith. And what happens over time, dreams that don't lead to decision, because most people love God's dream. Woo, I want the dream, but it doesn't lead to decision, is then it starts to go where? Down. And then you and I, well, we're not engaging our faith as much. And God, and we start saying things like, well, my faith is a personal thing. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that your faith is personal. It says, no, your faith is very public. Your faith is something that goes out and shares with others. That's why this story, this movement, this beauty of God continues to spread out. Why? Because the story doesn't get kept to yourself. If you've been around church at all, you've heard the illustration that if you had the cure for cancer, you wouldn't just sit on it. You might say, Jason, that's a little extreme. Well, if you know what it means to spend eternity with God and then you don't share it, what does that make you? See, I think there's things that conflict with this, and there's three things that I would say that are huge barriers for people in faith to move forward, to move from dreams to decisions, where we sit in dreams and we go, and we blame God. As the dream starts to crash, we go, God, you're the reason. And God's going, actually, no, you didn't turn the dream into action, and so you can only blame the person in the mirror. And there's three things that battle this. It's comfort, routine, and illusion. Comfort is something that we all know very well. We're sitting in an air-conditioned room with nice seats, with nice lighting. The computers are working this week. All of that stuff is happening, and then we go home to our places that have Wi-Fi. And if we go to a restaurant and they don't have the Wi-Fi, or the service isn't fast. Why? Because we love comfort. And the moment that God gives us a dream that's uncomfortable, we go, ooh, I don't know that matches up, God, because I love that dream, but I love to be comfortable. And there's things that have that rub, and there's also that piece of routine. I do a lot of stuff, God, and God goes, I got this dream for you. And we go, ooh, I don't like that, because that messes up my routine. I'm really good at this, God. You should just figure out how to wedge a little piece of that, because can we get a scaled down dream? Can we get like Play School's My First Dream? Can we get that? Because I don't really want that big dream. Because our routine is something that we love. And there's this other illusion that we'll have more time. And so, man, God, I love that dream, and I have a lot of time, so I'm going to do it later. No, you're not. You know how I know? New Year's resolutions. You're not going to do it later. The 98% was the last statistic that came out from like 2 years ago in New Year's resolutions. The people that made them and followed through with them. We're a culture that says a lot and does a little. And so the very word decision means to cut off. Now, this is a rotisserie chicken here. It smells so good too. No, I'm not sharing it with anyone. No, yes, you can buy lunch, you're good. And so you have lots of choices. You can argue about that in the car. And if we come down to this chicken, we talk about choices. The very verbiage means to cut off. And when you look at a chicken and you see all the pieces, you have to make a choice about what you're going to do, and you have to very gently cut it off. And what you're saying in that moment is that I have choices. I could have chosen any piece. I'm cutting out all the rest of that because I'm going to choose this. And when you engage the Christian faith, this pie that you've been given, however you want to look at it, of life, you think that you can manage that whole thing better than God can help you with just a piece. And I need to tell you that the decision that you have can be so freeing if you would just surrender to God and let Him take the wheel. Because I know that as I've entered into this, and there's been a lot of stuff that I could be a part of that is, I've kind of gone, all right, God, I don't want to do that, but, and cut that piece off, eliminating all the other choices. It's super freeing to be in this. And the first piece of that we learn in the altar of decision is that decisions deliver direction. That you immediately know, when you cut this off, I'm not going anywhere else towards that chicken. I already have what I need. And I tell people all the time that aren't engaged in faith and go, I just don't know about following God. And I go, man, it seems like your life doesn't have direction. They go, exactly. I go, follow Jesus. Why? Because right now you're not following anybody. And if you follow Jesus, it's going to lead you to the place that you can be. And it's going to give you clarity. It's going to give you boundaries. It's going to give you a place where you can thrive. You might be like, I don't really do boundaries. Like, I'm kind of a free spirit. I get it. And that used to be my life. But I can tell you that boundaries can help guide, direct, and save you. And how you make decisions will just start to happen, because it gives you direction. When my wife and I, when we had to come up with big decisions, I need to confess to you guys something. We don't have to pray really long over big decisions in our life as a family. Now, maybe for you guys, as a family, you spend days or weeks, whatever. We maybe spend like an hour, if that. praying. Why? Because we follow God and we trust God, and my wife loves Jesus and I love Jesus, and so as we follow him, we know that decisions are going to deliver direction, and we know that we're going to make a God-honoring decision because we love him, because we trust him, because we engage in daily life. It's so like when we had to move one time, we were living in a little space and we knew we needed to move in to take care of her mom, and we got word on the weekend of having to make a decision about our lease, and we had 24 hours. We made a decision in 1 hour. Decision that we're still living with today, 9 years later, to care for my father-in-law. Because we knew it was the right thing to do. Why? Because God gave us a dream early on, and it leads to decisions, and every time we make a decision, it hones in our decision and makes it easier and easier to honor God because we don't have to think about it. Our daughter sees this, and if you want to see how this plays out, our daughter sees all the time how we make decisions. She just got a letter that a spot opened up at the gifted school at ODS. And so we're like, this is a big decision. You have till Monday to think about it. And she got it on a Friday. And we talked to her for about an hour, weighed the pros and cons and everything. She goes, I'm going to do it. We're like, you have all weekend? You don't? She said, no. She's like, I can do this. I can go that direction. And that's what I can do. She's like, I can spend there through middle school, and I can eventually go to whatever high school thing I want to go to and choose that. And she said, and it'll be good because like I love God, and I can go be around other kids and love them too. 1 hour, a 9-year-old. And part of it's because she trusts God, but part of it's because she sees parents who are dreaming God-sized dreams, who are making God-sized decisions, and she follows it. And that's the other piece of this that we get to see, is that decisions drastically change the decider. As you begin to make these decisions, they become easier and easier and easier. And if you go, man, I want to live this life for God, but these dreams are too big and I can't make a decision, man, I'm here to tell you, it's actually a lot easier than you think. It's going, I have all this that God has provided for me. I'm going to take this. All right, God, because you'll thrive more in this than you ever will trying to manage every bit of the life that you think you could do 100% on your own. And I want to talk briefly for a moment to the fellas. Over doing almost 20 years of ministry, I've heard more women talk about and not trash their husbands, but say, I wish that our family would be on the right direction, but my husband is having a hard time. You know that women in the country outnumber men 7-1 in the local church. And the reason being is men have a hard time engaging faith. But I need to tell you is we look, and if you step out of the church, you see absentee, fatherless homes, and we go, what is the problem? You could track everything back to the men stepping up and being men. I'm not talking about wearing jerseys and fishing and hunting and all that other stuff. I'm talking men standing up and leading their families and being spiritual leaders. If you want to say, man, I just don't understand why my household's just falling apart, go home, walk into your bathroom, look in the mirror. That's the reason. And you may totally disagree with me and be upset with me and everything else, but there's an entire cover-to-cover narrative of Scripture that says that you and your spouse are a team, but somebody has to take the lead. And I've hung around kids at camp. We've had other leaders hang around at camp. We see kids, and you know that if a kid comes to faith, there's a 3% chance that the rest of the family will come to faith. If a mom comes to faith, there's a 7% chance that the entire family will come to faith. If a dad comes to faith, there's a 93% chance that the rest of the family will follow. That's 25 years of statistics that back that up. Statistics are not just numbers. Numbers are people, and people tell stories. The story of our culture is that dads need to rise up in the local church and be men. You want to talk about the altar of dreams to decisions? Hey, dads, be men. Lead well. Live a life that's spiritually pleasing. Because if you make that decision, you'll watch as this entire community gets changed. If you go, man, I don't know why my neighbors don't come to faith. Well, maybe you're not leading the God-sized dream to decision that God has called you to. And God is calling you to make a decision. God is calling you to cut off. I love, my parents come to church and they're in the room, and I always feel weird talking about them. Come to church here. But one of the things that my dad did spiritually is he made us go to church. is kids. I hated it. If you've come long enough, you know I hated it. There were cute girls at youth group, and there was food. That's the reasons I went. That was it. Well, my parents made me go to church. I hated it. I was so mad at them. I'm living a life of faith because my mom and dad said, we care more about your spiritual journey than we do about the sports you play, the school you go to, and whether or not you're our best friend. So my dad said, cool, you can be mad at me, get your butt in the car, and you're going to church. He made decisions about what it meant to get out of the Navy and take a piece and go, my family is important, and I've been gone too long, so I'm going to take that part out because I need to be more about my family. Every decision that he started to make and we watched make, it went from a God-sized dream to a decision, and it's led me and my siblings down an interesting road about what it means to engage our faith. Over the last almost 20 years, there have been 1,400 people baptized at this church. We continue to see it week in and week out. My prayer is for you to follow God in the dream that leads to decision. My prayer is that you impact kids, that your altered dreams will bring you to real life decisions. And whether you're male, female, middle school, high school, adult, we all have dreams that lead to God-sized decisions. And it's not blaming God and shaking our fist at the heavens at the altar of decision going, God, what didn't you do? God goes, I gave you a dream. It was you. It was me. That you and I don't follow the dreams that lead to decisions, real life moments where we say, God, that's important enough that I'm going to show up and be a part. And God goes, if you show up, I'm here and I am going to show off in your life and in the life of your family and your kids and your friends and everybody that you know. You want to see those dreams come to fruition? You have a choice to make. You can play church or you could be the church. I can never make you do that. That's not my job. My job is to love you regardless and tell you that these are your choice. You either choose to deny the dream, which is an apathetic dream, and you lead all those around you away from God, or you choose to embrace it and have a decision, and you lead them closer to Him. Choice is yours. What will you choose? My prayer is that you'll choose to make a decision. Would you pray with me? Thanks for tuning in to the Forefront Church video podcast. Our hope and prayer is that this has left you encouraged and challenged you in your faith. And you might have some questions and some ways that you want to figure this out, and we want to help with that. Head over to forefrontchurch.info, and there's a couple different ways that you can connect. Click the Connect tab and let us know how we can be praying for you, or a staff member can be contacting you this week. Maybe you have just been encouraged by this and want to support the ministry here at Forefront Church. You can click the Giving tab, as well as other tabs that are in there to help you along in your journey with God. And so we're thankful for you. Thanks for tuning in, and we cannot wait to see you again here online on the video podcast. We love you, and we'll see you then.